I'm going to show you the simple strategy that earned this athlete 43 interested schools and almost $200,000 in combined scholarships. We're going to do this step by step with screenshots. You can see down below there, 20 D1s, 10 D2s, 13 D3s, ended up with 11 offers and almost $200,000 collectively in scholarship money. This video is specifically going to be for parents. And my goal is going to be to simplify the recruiting process for you because I know that it can be complex and confusing, and nothing good comes from complex and confusing. So I'm going to make this as simple as I possibly can. What I'm about to show you works for men's and women's sports. It's tested and proven for these 9 sports because I know all of you parents are very concerned about what will work specifically for your kid's sport. So we've seen this work for soccer, football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, volleyball, softball, track and field, water polo. If your sport is not listed here, it doesn't mean that this won't work for your sport. It just means we don't have a proven testimonial for your sport yet. Maybe you will be the first. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jack Kruger. I run D1 Scholarship. This is my 30-second college recruiting rap sheet, just for a little bit of credibility. So I've been through the recruiting process twice. First time in high school, I failed hard, okay? I didn't know what I was doing. Us as a family, we didn't know what we were doing. We were spending a ton of money. And then the second time that I went through the process, I was in junior college, and we realized, all right, we need to figure something else out because what we did the first time didn't work. And so that ended up leading to what we do now. I generated over a dozen D1 scholarships. I played at the University of Oregon. I played at Mississippi State, and then sandwiched in between, that's when I went to junior college. And so I've been through the transfer portal as well. Played 7 years of professional sports with what I'm going to call are some of the best players in history. That's me with Shohei Ohtani down below. I've helped athletes in 9 different sports navigate college recruiting. At this point, there has been hundreds of them. So here is what we're going to cover in this video. First thing is we're going to talk about where this athlete started in college recruiting, because if she ended up at 43 interested schools, but she started at 38, there's not really much to talk about there, but that is not what happened, right? And so we're going to talk about where she started, the problems that she was struggling with, because there's a good chance that you are dealing with many of the same ones. And so then I want to show you how we solved each of those problems and why this strategy works so well. And then I'll finish by showing you some other athletes who have used this strategy and their results, because she is not an outlier. She is not the only one. So this athlete went from being a normal high school athlete to getting more than 40 interested coaches in less than a year. Here's what you have to understand about her. She wasn't exceptional. She wasn't a top 5% player. She was a decently good player, okay? She's not a bad player, but she wasn't a top 5% player. She just didn't have coaches know who she was. Not enough coaches knew that she existed. It was a lack of exposure. And so when they came to us, they had a little bit of interest, but not what they were looking for. They were dissatisfied with the opportunities that they had. And they could not figure out how to get on college coaches' radars, especially D1s. They felt like she was probably like a low-level D1 player, and they weren't sure how to get those schools interested. And every time that they felt like they were making progress, they'd have a setback. So they would start talking to schools, and then they'd ghost them. And they would make a video that they felt was really good, and nothing would come of it. And they kept seeing other players in their vicinity on their teams get interest in offers, and they didn't understand because they felt like she was a better player than those other kids. And they didn't really understand why that was happening. They sent some emails. They didn't get a ton of responses back. They got some generic camp invites, that kind of thing. They put together a highlight video because that's what they were told to do, but they didn't really feel like coaches were watching it. They didn't feel like it was helping much. And so the question is, how did she go from this, where they weren't sure how to make progress in recruiting, they didn't have a ton of interest in offers, to getting 11 scholarship offers and up to $200,000 in scholarship money? And so before they actually came to us, here's how they were trying to solve this problem on their own, and maybe you are doing many of these same things. The first one is she tried going to more showcases and camps. But the problem was every time she went to one of these events, she felt like no matter how well she played, college coaches had their favorites and that they were always looking at other players. And she didn't understand because in some cases she was the best player there, and it didn't seem like college coaches cared at all. They had tried sending emails and posting on social media, but they just couldn't get traction. For emails, they were getting ghosted, or they just could not seem to get college coaches to watch her video, or they were getting generic camp invites. it just wasn't working out, even though that's what they'd been told to do. She was trying to have her coach connect her with college coaches because her coach is actually kind of a bigwig, but he made a couple connections, just not enough to really move the needle for them. And then she tried following advice from social media. She was following like 30 different people on social media, trying to learn how the recruiting process works, but it always just felt generic, and it never really felt like it was solving the specific problems that she had. And so instead, here's what we did to take her from this place to getting more than 40 interested schools and getting multiple scholarship offers to D1, D2, and D3 schools. The first thing that we did was we formulated a video strategy that makes it easy for college coaches to evaluate and recruit her. This was absolutely critical, and you must do this because it will impact everything else that you do in recruiting. When you send emails to college coaches, it's going to rely, the number of responses that you get will likely be from the video. If you're posting on social media, it depends on how good your video is. If you're DMing coaches, it depends on how good your video is. It is the backbone for everything that you do in recruiting. Before you can do anything else, you must dial in your video. And truthfully, your 3-minute highlight video ain't it. And I know that this is what everybody preaches. It's the generic advice in college recruiting. Hey, take your best clips, throw it into a highlight reel, send that to coaches. This is not ideal. This is not what you should be doing. And when this athlete came to us, this is what she was doing. But the problem is, college coaches are not going to watch a 3-minute highlight video for players that they've never seen before or heard of before. They get hundreds of these things every single week. And you really only get like 10 to 12 seconds to make a good first impression, not 3 minutes. And what happens is that in that 3-minute highlight video, college coaches don't know what skills are showcased in that video. They can't see it. And so what ends up happening is some of your kids' best skills get buried deep in that video. And college coaches have no idea that you are actually showcasing them. And this is a problem because you're not accurately showing the talent of your kid. It's getting hidden under a rock. And that's a problem because that's what's going to get you less responses to emails, less interest from social media, and everything above. And so what's the solution here? What we did is we cut her video up into individual videos, and it makes it easier for coaches to evaluate her. Look at these video times down below. You see 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 16 seconds, right? They're all significantly shorter videos, and coaches can come in and they can choose which skills they want to watch. So if they want to come watch defense, they can. If they want to watch passing, they can. If they want to see a corner kick or a goal, they can. Coaches effectively get a buffet that they get to choose what they want to see, which means that they are more likely to click on those videos. And the more coaches click on those videos and the longer they watch those videos, the more likely they are to recruit your kid. The other thing is that these videos are shorter, so they're less time consuming. It is less of an ask for a coach to watch a 16-second video than a 4-minute video, right? And then what we also do here is that we show proficiency in all skills. You can't have what I call a leaky skills bucket, meaning that college coaches are looking for your kid to showcase specific skills based on their position, right? And so for this player, she needs to showcase defense, right? She needs to showcase passing. She needs to showcase corner kicks and goals. Those are skills that she must showcase that she is competent in. And the problem is that if you don't have video evidence for each one of those skills, then a college coach is going to have doubt that your kid is the complete player. They're going to say, oh, well, I know that they have good ball handling and that they can pass, but I don't really see a lot of goals, so maybe they're not a goal scorer, right? And whatever it is for your kid's sport and position, you have to eliminate the leaky skills bucket. You need to showcase every skill that a coach is going to want to see from your kid in their position. The second thing, once we dial in that video, is we had to increase exposure by sending 10 times more emails to college coaches. But we also had to do it in a manageable way that does not take forever. Because the reality is that sending a lot of emails is overwhelming, right? It's just a lot. If you're going to send hundreds of emails, it takes a lot of time, effort, energy. It's just hard to do. But it is also the best way to start conversations with coaches. And so between, your kids' school and practice and training and homework, studying for tests, chores around the house, fun stuff with friends, like your kid is busy. This athlete was busy too. And so what we needed to do was put her in a great position without her having to compromise on the field, in the classroom, at home. And so basically what we did is we helped her set up an automated email system. And so this allowed her to send 10 times the number of emails in half the time. And so this is a screenshot from her first campaign. Don't get married to these metrics. Everyone's metrics look different. But in the first campaign, we contacted 97 schools. Basically what happened is we queued them up, we pressed send campaign, and the emails went out automatically. And a lot of parents have pushback against this, and they say, yeah, but don't coaches know that they're automated, or doesn't it not feel personal? Listen, these come from the athlete. It feels like they're coming from the athlete. Coaches don't know that they're automated. Otherwise, we wouldn't get results. If coaches knew that these were automated, we would not get any results. And you see all the results that we post on social media. And so, yeah, they're automated, but they don't feel automated. It just makes your life easier. That's it. And so 92% of the coaches we emailed opened at least one of them. That's an outstanding open rate, much higher than the average. 67% of coaches clicked on and watched her video. 23 schools replied in the first campaign, and we ended up sending multiple for them. This is an absolute hack because you have to contact more schools. The 20 to 30 schools on a list thing, it doesn't work nowadays in college recruiting. 20 years ago, it worked. It was fine. Nowadays, it's probably not going to work for you. You must send, we say, a minimum of 100. And a lot of times, the families who get the most interest in offers tend to send more than that. But manually doing that can be an absolute drag. And so setting up this automated email system for her completely changed her recruiting process. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, I mean, she's getting replies, but like, what if those are all just generic camp invites? No, these are real responses. Hey, I'd love to jump on a call with you. Hey, I was impressed. Hey, do you have full game? Because now that I've watched the short videos, I'm interested, and now I want to see longer videos, right? These are real responses that she's getting to this campaign. She's starting actual conversations with coaches, not just, hey, come to my camp, right? Those are two completely different things. The third thing that we did is once we generated that interest, we have to convert that initial interest into real scholarship offers and roster spots. And this is something that a lot of people miss. They think that because they've generated interest, that the process is over now. It'll take care of itself. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I see a lot of families generate interest, not know how to build upon that interest, and then they lose it. And then they end up in this cycle where they generate interest, coaches ghost them, and they lose it. They generate interest, coaches ghost them, and lose it. And it happens over and over and over again. And the truth is that it's hard to follow up with coaches without being annoying, but it's the key to getting scholarships. You have to. And so this athlete, when she came to us, she would get a school interested, and then they'd vanish. And she didn't understand how often to follow up with coaches or what to say or what to send. And so coaches would ghost her, and she had no clue why. And listen, sometimes in college recruiting, that's going to happen. There's a lot that's outside of your control. But at the very least, we need to put ourselves in the best position possible to not let that happen. And so she needed a simple system to build relationships with college coaches without being annoying. And so the solution is we gave her that simple follow-up system. And college coaches loved it. It led to dozens of phone calls, visits, and offers. Notice what these coaches are saying. They're not saying, hey, this is annoying. Please stop contacting me. No, they're actually thanking her for the messages that she was sending. Thanks for sending this. Give me a call. I look forward to speaking with you. I'll give you a call tomorrow. You must be able to turn interest into offers if you want to succeed in college recruiting. Generating interest is not enough. It's just the first step in a long line of steps. Yes, it's a necessary step, but it's toward the beginning of the process. You need to actively build relationships with coaches and do that in a way that is not annoying. It is critical if you want scholarships, okay? The fourth thing that we did here is we selectively chose which showcases and camps that would have the highest return on investment. Here is the key. Ready? Showcases and camps are for evaluation, not exposure. Meaning you are not going to showcases and camps to get on college coaches' radars. You are going to showcases and camps for coaches that you're already talking to evaluate your kid and watch them in person. That is what they are truly for. Because the reality is that it's hard to know which showcases and camps are money grabs and which events are actually worth your time and money. Because most showcases and camps are fundraisers for the school. They're not actually recruiting prospects. That's why when you go to a camp with 100 players, they only talk to a few, right? Most of the people there are just fundraising for the school. And there are hundreds of these events all over the country, and she just didn't know which ones to pick and go to. How do you choose between them? And she wasn't sure, even when she did go to one, how to separate herself from the hundreds of other athletes that were there and gain a competitive advantage. And so what we did is we helped her choose which events to attend and showed her how to make the most of the ones that she went to. This is a message from her mom, and notice what she says. So she went to an ID clinic, she went to a recruiting event, and there were a lot of players in attendance, right? They only talked to 3 players at the end of the event, meaning if there were 100 players there, 97 of them did not talk to the coaches. Only 3 of them did. She was one of the 3. And how does that happen? Because we generated interest elsewhere. We built that relationship over time. And then when she goes to the event, it's a rigged casino and she is the house. She is walking in with a competitive advantage from day 1, minute 1, second 1 over all of those other players that are there. And this is how you both choose showcases and camps and make the most of the ones that you do go to. And so what did all of this lead to? 12 calls in the last 10 days. It might even be more than that. I've lost count, says her mom. It's like they're coming out of the woodwork. It's a mix of D1, D2, and D3. They had multiple visits scheduled, multiple offers. Some are not even listed here. She adds, hey, I'm super excited about this. Calls are scheduled for tomorrow and next week. And she's not forced into choosing one school. This is critical. She has options. And you need options because options are what are going to give you the best opportunity to find the best fit. If you're forced into taking one offer, it might not be a school that is a great fit for your kid. And so you want to generate as many options as possible so then your kid gets to pick the one that is going to give them the experience that they want. And so why does this strategy work so well? There are 5 reasons. The first reason is that it makes it incredibly easy for college coaches to recruit your kid. This is the golden rule of college recruiting. The easier you make it for a college coach to recruit you, the more likely they are to. And so if you use the generic recruiting advice that everybody else follows, you're making it too hard for coaches to find, evaluate, and recruit your kid. And so here are some examples of things that everyone says to do in recruiting that actually make it hard for coaches to recruit you. Making 3-minute highlight videos, not following up with coaches because you're scared of being annoying, not being active on social media, not having productive phone calls, sending handwritten letters, thinking that you're being personal. These are things that are making it harder for coaches to recruit you. This strategy that I showed you makes it easy for coaches to recruit you, so you're more likely to get interest and offers. The second reason is that this strategy allows you to contact 10 times as many college coaches in less time and with less effort. What's kind of bizarre about this is that we may have contacted hundreds of schools with this athlete, but it probably took her less time and effort to send hundreds than it takes you right now to go send 30. And that's what's kind of messed up about this, but that's exactly the point. I want to weigh the scales in your favor. I want to give you the cheat codes when they're available. And I know that a lot of families struggle to send emails. It's hard, even just contacting 20 to 30, which is usually what most families do. We'll get a couple people who contact, 50 or 100 and are still struggling. But a lot of families they put 20 to 30 on a list, they email those schools, and then they get bummed when coaches don't respond. And part of this is because emailing is just really hard and it takes a lot of time. Part of it is because they're not sure what to put in those emails. Part of it is because they don't really know how to put more schools on a list. They're like, I can only think of 20 to 30, right? And so we have to figure out a way to get more schools and expand that list. And so it just means that our families who email 100 schools with follow-ups actually spend less time than it takes you to send 20, right? And it's just another reason that we're able to generate interest like this. Third reason is that this strategy generates more interest than shelling out money for recruiting events. And so the reality is that most parents don't know how to navigate college recruiting. They're not sure. It's confusing. It's complex. There's not really a clear roadmap. And so what they do is they say, I know that's the case, but I have to do something because we have to try to get our kid noticed. And so what they do is they spend a bunch of money on recruiting events because they're not really sure what to do as an alternative. But this is just going to burn a hole in your wallet. So can we say, hey, can we focus on strategy instead? Like, how do we get the most out of each action step in the recruiting process? How do we get the most out of videos? How do we get the most out of emails and social media and follow-ups? How do we get the most out of all of these other things? And so, yeah, we're not a discount recruiting service by any means, but if you're going to go pay tens of thousands of dollars over and over again for these recruiting events over the course of 2 years, then yeah, it's actually probably going to save you money. Fourth reason this strategy works so well, it's not reliant on a high school or travel coach to connect you with schools. And this is what a lot of families do. They say, we're going to go to as many recruiting events as we can, and then we're going to hope that our coach connects us with schools. The reality is that your coach is not going to make 50 calls on your behalf. He's just not. Like, he does not have that much time in the day to do that for all the other families in his organization that he made the same promises to as he made for you. And so really what we do here is help families take control of their own recruiting process. So instead of waiting for someone else to make something happen, you can turn this strategy on whenever you want. If you need more interest, turn on the jets. If you have a ton of interest, pull back a little bit. But you're not going to be reliant on anyone else to secure your kid's future. And that is a big deal. The fifth reason, this strategy has been iterated and improved upon for over 30,000 emails to college coaches and hundreds of athletes and families. So we've sent more than 30,000 emails to college coaches. It's probably closer to 40,000 at this point. So we have an insane amount of data on what works and what doesn't. Part of the reason this strategy works so well is that we've failed a ton in the past and just kept iterating and improving until we found something that worked really well. And so at this point, we're not guessing. We just have a bunch of data and we follow the data and what's proven to work, and we just do that. And so we skip all the BS and we just focus on the few actions that actually move the needle. And so you're saving a ton of time and you're going to be much more efficient with the process. And so here's more families who use this strategy, right? Because it's not just her. This is 16 positive personal responses just from the first campaign. This is Josh. He's now in communication with 22 schools compared to 3 when we started with you. This is 21 interested schools, 15 interested schools, 18 interested schools. Interested schools, by the way, is any school that shows you a positive response that is interested in recruiting your kid. I do not count generic camp invites as interested schools. This is a commitment to Ball State. 10 interested schools, 9 interested schools, 12 interested schools, committed to her top school. Many schools interested, you can see there. He had nothing before he came along. Now he has many schools interested, about to get his first 2 offers. Another commitment, 8 interested schools, 10 interested schools, 20 interested schools, 25 interested schools. I could go all day, but I'm not going to. You can see here in just 3 days, we've gotten more engagement than we've had in 6 months trying to navigate with another service. And so this can work for you even if, okay, you're just starting out in the recruiting process. It can work for you even if your kid isn't a blue chip top 5% in the country kind of player. We don't even really work with those players because they don't need us. The majority of players that we work with are just good players and college coaches don't know about them. This can work for you even if you don't know anything about college recruiting and you feel like you're starting from square one. It can work for you even if you're completely overwhelmed and you work a busy job and you don't have time. It can work for you even if you've tried sending emails but you haven't received any personal responses. You've only had generic camp invites or you're not getting any responses. It can work for you even then. It can work for you even if you've been to showcases and camps but nothing has really come from them. It can work for you even if you feel like your kid is not seen for the player and person that they are. If you feel like college coaches, if they would just talk to my kid, if they would just get to know my kid, then this is for you. And it can work for you even if your kid isn't a self-promoter. If your kid doesn't like to post on social media, if your kid is a little more introverted, this can still work for you. We deal with that all the time. So if this is something that you're interested in, then you can schedule a call to learn more. There's a button below this video, and there are a couple requirements for this. So the first thing is, this is parents only. We do not take any calls with athletes if you're an athlete. Do not book a call. We will not allow you to book a call. The second thing is that it's for 2025 or 2026 grad class parents, okay, or college transfers. If your kid is a 2027, 2028, 2029, we have other stuff for you, but this is not for you. This is for people who we can get results for right now. And for that, it is 2025 and 2026 grad classes. The only sports, we work with a whole bunch of sports. The only sports that we cannot take right now at the moment are men's basketball and hockey. Other than that, all other sports are fair game. You're good to go. So if that describes you, then you can click the button below this video to schedule a call, and we'll walk you through what we do. And so wouldn't you take this bet? Like, the worst case scenario is that you hop on a free call, you think that we're absolute dummies, and you waste 30 to 60 minutes of your time. On the flip side, the best case scenario is that your recruiting process looks completely different than it does right now. You don't have as much stress. You don't have as much anxiety. You have a clear action plan, and your kid ends up going to their dream school. And so isn't that worth a 30-minute call, 60-minute call just to see? And so if so, then here are the next steps. You'll click the button below this video. You're going to fill out a quick form so that we can get to know your situation and come prepared to the call. You'll pick a time that is most convenient for you, and then show up to the call ready to kick your recruiting process into high gear. And so my question is, what do you have to lose? There's nothing to lose here. It's a free call. So click the button below, book a call, and we're looking forward to talking to you soon.